everyone, to another episode here of the Coangler Chronicles podcast. I am your host, Ty. I do want to thank you for tuning in to the podcast. I really appreciate it. And I'm thankful for everyone who has been watching the podcast, comments, things like that. I certainly appreciate it. And I'm excited to bring to you a brand new episode. So if you are watching on YouTube, which I certainly appreciate, everyone that's watching it on YouTube, thank you for that. The comments, all that, I really appreciate that. And the dialogue that goes on there. If you're listening on Apple or Google Podcasts, thank you for that as well. Spotify, things like that. I'm certainly appreciative of that. Thank you for tuning in. What I'm standing in front of today is what we typically see here during the off season, especially from someone who has to work to make sure that they can get done the things they need to get done. So I am standing in front of a desk that is completely covered in bait, tackle, Senkos, spinner baits, creature baits, reels, boxes of nails, soft plastics, worms. Guys, take your pick. I got swim baits. I got citizens over here. I got mag drafts over here. I got new spinner baits that just came out over here. I got Berkeley dredgers. I got lizards. Zoom trick worms. You guys see the beautiful Omega spinner baits here in the case shelving. Crankbait boxes. Guys, this desk here is loaded up with tackle and stuff I found at the local antique shop. If you can see, I'm holding up a couple baits to the camera so people can see on the live. So this is what it looks like in the off season for a tournament bass fishing angler who's curious about new baits, new tackle, wants to try this. Take a look at that. Some of you are probably wondering why you see it looks like some little small girl guys hair ties things in here as well, guys. I got a lot of stuff on this desk here that goes a lot of different directions for my deal. So me behind it all, hopefully you guys can see that. A lot of stuff going on here of tackle. You can see I moved from behind it so you can see it all, but this is what I got going on now. And if you hear that little noise here, like I mentioned for my podcast, I do have a small one here who every time he hears the camera come on and whatnot, he likes to jump in the conversation. So I'm happy that he's here and wanting to join in with me. So I am going to slide this desk over a little bit out the way though, guys, so we can get back to my clean backdrop setting here that I want to work with to show you guys from today. I don't know about you, but clutter just drives me insane. I can't stand it. So and I never intended for that to look like that. I just was buying stuff and I put it there and I got to working. And while I'm working, I'm on my lunch break, I'm buying stuff and I'm like, oh, let's do this, whatever the case may be. Next thing I know, when I finally get done working and get over here to my desk, it's cluttered. So that's the first and last time you will ever see that desk. If you saw it, that's the first and last time you ever see that desk looking like that. But I'm just showing, if you guys know, listen to my channel, my podcast, anything like that, I'm pretty transparent. I share what really happens here. So you can see all those guys in their man caves and what looks great, this, that, and the third. That's phenomenal. That's great. I'm showing y'all what happens when you're a dad of 4. You got limited space. You got to make it work. And you want to be the best that you can be. You got to make it work with what you got. You can either come up with a bunch of excuses or you can get it done. So I got it here. It will be organized very soon, and we'll be getting after it. So I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited about the chance to get to tackle that and make it look phenomenal. So that'll be coming up very soon. I probably will do a video showing you guys as I do that, kind of the before and after. But today's video, I'm excited. Today's podcast, I'm excited to talk to you guys about. This is the Coangler Chronicles podcast. I'm your host, Ty. Thank you for tuning in. I tried to do a little bit different for my intro today, so super. I got to figure out where to go from here. So I did that. Here we go. So we're today. I do have a topic for you, as the title for the videos, the podcast says, for co-anglers. So I am back again by myself on this particular podcast episode. By myself, I'll be talking to you guys, sharing some tips and tricks, things like that I got going on that I feel it can help. So I've started this whole deal. I got a lot of feedback, positive, good, bad, whatever the case may be. I'm still here. I'm still making information. And I'm just trying to share so that way everybody can be successful in the water. Co-anglers, anglers, boaters, non-boaters, riders, whatever the case may be. Like I said, this channel is for everybody. Podcast is for everybody. But sometimes I do gear the topics a little bit more specifically to a certain area. Now, before I dive all the way in on the topics today, I do want to just take 1 second and shout out the gear I got on. So if you're watching live, I'm getting very close to the camera, showing you guys my shirt. So my shirt says fish. And this is made by a company. I'm wearing the hat for it. It's called Ozarks Outfitters. The owner there, Shane, real good dude, man, making some great products. I'm super excited to be rocking with them and having some of the clothes on here in the video. So huge thanks out to them, Ozarks Outfitters. Be sure to check that out. Hit me up, send me a message, comment, whatever the case may be. I can get you a deal where you can save a little bit of money on that. I believe it's like 15% actually. It's actually a pretty good bit of money. So hit me up. I'll give you the code, or I'll flash it on the screen, or I'll leave a link with the code in the description box below. Be sure to check out my description box as well. I've updated some things in there. I realized that I had it all kind of wonky, so I've updated my description box. There is some links in there to save some money for some stuff. There's some links in there to save some money. There's some links in there to my stuff that I got going on, guys. I've been working on some stuff. I'm trying to build this whole deal here, and I've been working on some stuff. So be sure to check out the description box for some links that can lead you to some of my stuff, and that can save you some money. So thank you for that. I certainly appreciate it. And like I said, we're just going to keep on working. But I want to go ahead and dive into today's episode. Today's episode of the Coangler Chronicles podcast. I believe this is episode number 6. If I had to guess, just a guess. It might be number 5. I'm not sure. I wish I really did know. You know what? I'm going to actually check. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to tell you guys exactly what it is, because I don't want to be wrong in my own podcast talking about my own stuff. So for those of you that can't see, I created a playlist with the episodes I have. So there's 4 episodes up now. This is episode number 5. Thank you for tuning in to episode number 5 of the Coangler Chronicles podcast. Thank you. Again, I'm your host, Ty. You can find me on all different social media, Instagram, TikTok, things like that, under my name, which is Bassandfurious. So that's me, Bassandfurious. If you don't recognize Ty, you definitely recognize the Bassandfurious name. Check it out. I have multiple videos up, TikTok, Instagram, things like that. I had several videos last year go viral. I had videos featured on the Steve Harvey. I had videos featured on the earthquake pages that they have out there. My video was featured on Fail Army. I think over 1 million people on that viewed it there. Fail Army. If you don't recognize me from that, you might recognize me from the fishing commercial that you see every Saturday morning when you're watching fishing. There's a fishing commercial which you can see me and my daughter, and you can see me and my wife in the fishing commercial that you watch on My Outdoor TV, Fox Sports, ESPN, wherever you watch Fishing Channel. If there's a commercial that pops up on there about getting back into fishing and how people got out of fishing, how they're back into fishing now, I'm in that commercial. So if you don't recognize me from any one of those, you may recognize me from me dropping my rod in the water while I stared directly into the camera while I dropped my rod and my bait in the water, but I held up the fish, but I threw my bait and my rod in the water. You may recognize me from that. If you don't recognize me from any of that, welcome to the podcast. What's up? My name is Ty. I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad you're here. Let's talk. So today's podcast episode, we're talking about being a co-angler. Again, we're back to the same topic. I want to continue to share information that can help, that I feel like maybe can help with some different anglers, co-anglers and anglers. I'm kind of bounce a little bit in between, but we're talking today. The main thing we're talking about today is be different. So that's the title for today's podcast. The title of what we're talking about is be different. And then my son is singing happy birthday, but it's no one's birthday. Son, he loves singing happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. So sorry about that, guys. Happy birthday. He loves singing happy birthday while he's playing with his toys. So brief little intermission there to sing a little song. But we're back. On today's podcast, we're talking about be different. So that, guys, there's so many ways that can be taken when you hear it right off the bat about being different. And this one in particular I'm talking about, when you're on the water, we're assuming that you've already followed my first couple episodes. You got signed up for a tournament. You've got, you got to bring tackles to the tournament. You got to bring rods. You got to bring reels. You can't just show up and hope for the best. You got to bring rods. You got to bring reels. You got to bring water. You got to bring your lunch, things like that. We kind of went over all of those things in the previous podcast. So hopefully you guys are following along with me. I'm just going to keep building on that. Now, we're on the water. The day has started. You met with the boater. Y'all talked. You discussed what it is that he's doing. He told you a little bit about what's going on. You're on the water. Here you are. Bam. You got your rod and reel in your hand. You guys pulled up on the first spot. Hopefully, if you're like me and the rod was a little rough, you pull it out your Revital Outdoors. You got your little cream on your wrist and stuff. You got everything on there. You're feeling good. You're ready to rock. Be sure to check out Revital Outdoors. Once that happened, Now, this is what we're talking about. Be different. So I mentioned it in one of my first episode, I think, or second episode, where I talked about how boaters sometimes, every podcast you listen to and they bring a boater on, he says, don't throw what I'm throwing. And that's what he says. So I posed the question, why do boaters then throw what co-anglers throw? When a co-angler starts whacking him on a shaky head, the boater picks up his shaky head because he has 30 rods. He grabs a shaky head rod and then he starts whacking them, and then you don't get no more bites. So if you're telling me not to throw what you're throwing, then stop throwing what I'm throwing, right? Give me a chance. Like literally, I'm whacking fish on an underspin, which that's not me because I ain't never caught a fish on underspin in my life. But if I'm whacking them on an underspin, then you see the boater pick up his version of an underspin, and then your bite completely dies. So I'm trying to give you guys ways to combat that, right? Or take that whole scenario out. Just say you're on the water, he's throwing a spinnerbait. You want to throw a spinnerbait. You're a good spinnerbait fisherman. He's a good spinnerbait fisherman. Now what? Okay, so that's probably, of the scenarios I just mentioned, that's probably a more likely scenario. You have a co-angler who's like me, who's typically a boater, but signs up for tournaments as a co-angler. I'm good at spinnerbait fishing. I love spinnerbait fishing. I will throw my spinnerbait everywhere I can. And I can work my spinnerbait through pieces of wood, cover, laydowns, rocks. I mean, I love working a spinnerbait. I love working a crankbait. So when I get in a boat with somebody and I look at their rods on their deck, that was one of my tips I showed you guys. I talked to you that I may or may not have shared. I maybe have shared, but I'm going to share again because I feel like if you didn't watch the first episode, catch it now on this one. So if you get in the boat with a boater and you're talking to him, y'all are conversing, he's got his rods in the rod locker because he don't want nobody to know what he's doing. Okay, cool. That makes sense. That's normal. But at some point in the day, he's going to start pulling out rods. And what I've had guys do is they get in the boat, the boater will get in the boat, he'll talk to all his friends and buddies, and then he'll troll over away from everybody. Then he starts getting organized, especially in the Bassmaster Open, especially in the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit. When you get in the pros with those guys, you cannot give those guys a piece of information. If you give them a piece of information, you're going to pay for it. If they're in the same area as you, and most of the time these guys, they only troll around to people they know. So they troll around to your buddy. And then you wonder why your buddy caught 23 pounds and you caught 13, because your buddy pulled up in the spot. Your buddy looked at your baits yesterday or talked to you in your conversation. You shared something. He took your tip. He smoked him, which you're happy because that's your buddy. But at the same time, now he just cost you 10K. So he's still your buddy, but he definitely picks up on information. If you think an angler's your friend and they're not going to pick up on information, for one, I'm your friend. I should be able to pick up on information from you. One, right? We're both here. Why not help each other get to the top? But two, we're anglers, the way their mind works, I just need a piece of information in order to be successful. So when you see these guys get on the stage and they're like, they do their post-game interview where you can't really share a lot of stuff with people at that time, but they want to help out somebody who may know them. So they'll get on stage and they'll say something like, yeah, man, I was winding something all day. And you're like, and my thinking, I'm like, winding something? Crankbait, spinnerbait, what you winding? Like, I don't understand. But if you fish with him, and now I know what winding means, right? So if you fish with him, you know terms. He just gave everybody in the audience what was going on. You think there's not some guy out there that was like, dang it, man, I threw that goddamn wacky rig all day. I said, goddamn, wacky rig all day. He's out here winding something. Man, dang it. And then bam, that dude, when he gets back to his boat, he's going to keep the wacky rig on, but I guarantee he's going to tie on something to wind. And he's going to go fishing with that tomorrow. He's going to at least try it because he heard those words. So basically, as anglers, we hear the words, we're visual, we see the things, we hear the words. But yeah, guys, so basically just saying that, like, sometimes it'll come up to where um, you can sorry, guys, I had a call. I think it might have been my doctor, so I might need to answer that. But I'm going to finish this podcast. I'm going to call him back. But so basically, to where you're like, you get a little piece of information, and then you're going to take the information, you're going to roll with it. So for my tip for the Coangler guys here is, again, if you have a boater, he lays all his rods out on the deck. Now, I guarantee you there's no boater that lays out a bunch of rods on the deck that aren't remotely relevant to what he's going to do for the day. So if I'm a and I've tied on a shaky head, a drop shot, all the Coangler staples, right? I've tied all those on, and I get in the boat with this guy, and I look at his deck, and I see a mag draft, a spinnerbait, a Rick Clun King Kong crankbait, and a jig, and a Texas rig. Now I'm like, we about to power fish all day, so maybe keep on what I got because I can maybe catch something behind them. Again, this goes back to the be different mindset, but um, or maybe I need to make some adjustments. So if I see that as a coangler, I'm thinking I see Texas rig, so I'm thinking I'm gonna keep my shaky head on. I'm thinking I'm gonna keep my drop shot on. I see mag draft, I'm thinking Kitech. I'm gonna throw a 3.8 Kitech on a little swim bait head. If he's throwing a swim bait and he's had some success on it, I'm gonna do that. Spinner bait, I'm just gonna tie on a spinner bait. Crankbait, I'm gonna tie on a crankbait. That's it. Because I know I'm good with those, and I look at his crankbait and I look at who makes his crankbait, and I'm like, all right, he's got a Strike King KVD 1.5. All right, I'm gonna tie on a Jabberjaw. This all goes to my point of what I'm saying about be different. Okay, a lot of times you hear these guys say, and they'll make that big general statement, don't throw what I'm throwing. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I'm telling you guys, if you take what they say and tweak it a little bit to fit yourself, when I'm saying be different, understand what I'm saying. Think about sounds, think about baits, think about profiles, think about length, think about depth, these things. If you see he's throwing a 1.5, you know he's only going 3 to 5 feet. He might have heavy fluorocarbon, so he's going down max 5. All right, so I'm gonna throw one maybe that goes six to 7, or I might throw one that goes 2 to 4. I know that he's throwing a 1.5, I might throw a 2.5. If I know he's throwing a 2.5, I might throw a 1.5. I might throw a 1.0. If I know he's throwing in the 7 to 9 foot range, because I can look at the bill and I think it's a little bit different, I'm glancing at this stuff, guys. We're in a tournament. I don't know this guy from anybody. I'm not going to sit here and just listen to the words come out of his mouth, because here, understand me 100%. If you're missing everything else, just catch this part. People will tell you anything. They will tell you anything. They'll give you anything. Like, think about it. There's a guy that could come up to you on the street, and he will come up to you and he'll look you dead in your eyes and be like, man, I think you're a good guy, man. I really like you. I think you can change the world, man. And the whole time he's stealing your wallet. Okay, let that sink in. He's all in your face, piping you up. He's getting close to you, my man. You know, dude, you're my guy, man. Dude, look at that suit, bro. You're dressed up. You look great. And he done bumped into you, took your stuff. He gives you like the wink and the gun on the way out of there. I think he gives you the wink and the gun on the way out of there, and he done jacked your wallet. See what I'm saying? Like, and that's a very extreme example, but what I'm saying is, people they'll tell you anything. Like, if some people are afraid of confrontation. They just don't like to tell people stuff that they think might upset them. So they'll tell you whatever, right? Like, oh man, your dress looks wonderful. You look great. And then as soon as they get around the corner, they talk to their friends. They're like, oh my God, that's the worst dress. She must have got that dress from that, what's that Instagram place that you buy these dresses from? She looks like one of these, what's wrong with her? Oh my God, I can't believe she came to work like that. And then you come back around the corner and she's like, oh my God, girl, you're killing it. And I'm like, and I'm watching this, like these exchanges from the outside. And I'm like, why didn't you just tell your girl that you didn't like her dress? Tell her, take that dress that she got from the clearance section at Kohl's, take it back. Girl, you better than this. You need to go. Like, so some people just don't say that stuff. So if you're honestly expecting a angler that you meet on the water, how many times do you know it? You know personally. If you're watching my podcast and you're thinking in your brain now, how many times have you talked to an angler who has blatantly, flat out lied to you? Lied to you. Oh, and he's your friend. He lied to you, like literally to your face. Dude, I whacked him all day on a frog. And he told you that because you told him you weren't catching him on a frog. He says, I whacked him all day on a frog. He got one bite on a frog, missed it, and then cleaned up with a fluke on the back end. And he tells you that he whacked him on a frog all day. And you're like, oh my God, I had the frog tied on. And he just sent you down a spiraling path of junk. And then we all have that angler friend that's blatantly honest. Like, I caught him on what I told you I was catching him on, a 3/16 ounce tungsten pegged with a sweet beaver in California 420 color. I told you. Did you throw it? Well, man, I thought I'd try green pumpkin. I told you to throw the 420. The red flag is what does it. So we all have that friend too that's like blatantly honest, like basically calling you an idiot because you don't listen to their advice. There's that friend too. So we have all of them. So what I'm saying is, when you get in the boat as a coangler with a boater, I look at your actions more than I'm looking at the lip service that you're giving me. I'm not paying attention to that. If you're telling me, man, we're gonna be out deep, man, we're gonna be throwing brush piles all day, and I'm looking on the front deck and I see a spinnerbait and a crankbait and a Texas rig, I'm not thinking about I'm not thinking about a brush pile. I'm thinking about how I'm going to combat that. to try to catch something on my own. And then when we pull up to our first spot, then I'll see what's going on. Some people, like I said, sometimes they'll tell you something because they want to get you thinking differently, so that way you'll be ready for any scenario. But they know good and well that they're going to be throwing up shallow all day, and then they're going to maybe go run and hit a couple brush baits in the day to try to get that big kicker, and they're good. So you gotta pay attention. So back to what I was saying, when you're looking at the deck, there's something you're going to need to be mindful of. Take a look at it, make an assessment. If you think what you got matches that and maybe gives you a little something different, roll with it. If you get in the boat and you got enough time and you look at that and you're like, I'll tell you what, I'll give you an example. I got in one tournament with my buddy. We had practiced. We did. I practiced. He practiced. We did our whole thing. I got a tournament in there, and we were going to go fish a spot that we knew there was some fish on. This was a team tournament, so we got in there. We knew there was some fish on. It's happened to me multiple times, but I'm gonna give you this example because this one's a lot more positive in my brain. So we were going to a spot, and I was in the boat. I looked at what he had tied on. I know what he likes to throw. I know what I like to throw. But I'm looking. I'm like, I know we're going back to that spot, but I'm like, I think I got to change something. So I literally reached in my bag. I had bought like 2 packs of this bait that I thought was going to absolutely kill it that day. I will share that with you guys at some point in my life. When I do, you're going to thank me a lot, or you're already going to know. If you know, you know. But I'm telling you what, this bait is absolutely the best. I keep it in my bag everywhere I go now. I will refuse to take it out. I don't care where I'm at. I refuse to take it out because the colors they hit so phenomenally. So I took the bait, and I had a bait tied on, and I wasn't getting many bites on it in practice, but I know it can catch them. So I had it tied on. I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I got in the boat with him, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at the sky, and I'm looking at his baits. I'm looking at mine. I'm looking at the sky. I'm like, I got to make a change. So I pulled the bait out of my bag. I held it up to the sky to see how the light's coming through. And when I saw the light coming through it, I'm like, yeah, I got to tie this on. And sorry, guys, I never really hold my arms up. I don't know if you guys can see. I do have quite a few tattoos, and I don't know if everybody really pays attention to this. So hoping that you're still, if you do, but I do have a lot of tattoos. I very rarely lift up my sleeves, but I actually do have quite a few tattoos. So anyways, I thought they were cool. And a lot of them, they're all for my kids, man. They're my kids and then my music and stuff like that, and some motivational stuff. So, but anyways, back to the story. So, if you're listening on the podcast, you didn't see my tattoos, but I have them. So, and anyways, with this date, I was like, I think I need to make a change to this bait. So I switched to that bait. We had takeoff was in like 3 minutes. We were idling through to hear our number called, and I made a switch. And I was like, I gotta make this switch. I have to. So I did it. And when we pulled up to our first spot, the water was a little bit cleaner than what it had been. So when we got there, I was 100% glad I made the change. I made like 3 or 4 casts, smoked 3-pounder. I'm like, yes, right? That's one of those days where you're like, it went the way it needed to go. I did what I needed to do. Bam, here we go. As the day progressed, it got a little bit dirtier, but I stuck with that color, made a little tweak to it, and it still produced all day. I caught so many fish that day. It was a phenomenal day, one of my best days of fishing on the water. I loved it. But it was one tweak with like, sometimes, guys, if you have like a minute and a half, you have to maximize all your time on the water. So if you're idling through and you can hold it and you're not going too fast and you think you can do it without having all your stuff blow out the boat, that's a key. There's been many, many hats, rods. One tournament I went to, a guy's tackle bag, he had left it on the back of the boat and his tackle bag fell off the boat. Luckily, it floated, which is the weirdest thing in the world. That sucker should have just sank. But it floated. Somebody grabbed it, bought it to him later in the day. But his whole tackle bag of all the tackle, all he had was the rods with him that he had. All his tackle was floating with someone else. Insane. That would have been a disaster for a day. But if you do your homework and the research and what you've got tied on you think is good, then shoot, I'm rolling with these rods. I hope I don't lose no bait. I hope this Cinco is more than a one fish Cinco. But so I'm saying for these differences about being different. So that in that particular case, I made a change. I was a little bit different based on what I saw he had, what I thought I should have. We both had the same type of bait on. I just made a little tweak to mine, and it worked out good. His bait came to shine midday when the water got a little bit dirtier. His bait was smoking them. I made a tweak, then my bait went back to smoking them. Then we're at the end of the day, we're just throwing buzz bait to frogs. So it's kind of all right, whatever. At that point, this bait didn't come into play anymore at that point, but that's fine because we were trying to go for a kicker, a giant. So that's how that worked out. But I'm saying as far as be different. So I'm going to go back to that whole deal there. So be different. So like I said, when you hear people say don't throw what they throw, if they say I'm throwing a crankbait, you throw a chatterbait, that's fine, guys. But I'm telling you, If he's throwing a crankbait, you can still throw a crankbait. If he's throwing a chatterbait, you can still throw a chatterbait. But you have to be different. If he's throwing a white and chartreuse, you cannot throw a white and chartreuse exact same white and chartreuse he's throwing. If he's throwing a Z-Man jackhammer, you might want to throw a thunder cricket. Again, little differences. I mentioned this earlier on. Little differences. Sound, vibration, action in the water. All these things play a role. So if they're whacking his jackhammer, try the thunder cricket. Try the Omega Custom Tackle Rapture. It has a hunting action type of deal. So whereas a jackhammer comes right through and is going to plow through everything, the Omega's kind of like darting because of the way the head design is, man. The way the connection is. So it's darting where this is going straight through. I'm still throwing a chatterbait. He's still throwing a chatterbait, so I can still hit the same type of cover. Obviously, way different. Just throw a shaky head and just work it maybe a little bit faster. Throw a drop shot. Work it even slower. I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes you're going to be casting out. You're going to let your rod sit. Sometimes you're going to let it sit and you're going to hop it. While he's burning the bank, just hop it. Just hop it. Let it sit. Don't go as fast as him. Again, these are all things. Be different. Don't go as fast as him. If he's going burning speed, he's whacking a burning speed, that's fine. Pick off what comes behind him by going a little bit slower. Or go just as fast, but then be different. If he's throwing the white and chartreuse jackhammer with the Zaco, throw the white and chartreuse thunder cricket with the kamikaze swim on. That's different, guys. That's so much different. The action on that swim on thing doing this versus the Zaco that's doing this versus the jackhammer that's coming straight versus the thunder cricket that's coming. They're making a different sound through the water. All that, like all those are different. I mentioned in one video about putting a rattle in. If he's throwing a shaky head, you're throwing a shaky head, put a rattle in the tail. There's a tiny little rattle you can get. Throw it in the tail. Throw it in the body. He's throwing a shaky head. He's whacking them. Now you throwing yours with a little rattle. Ding, 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 making a little sound. Now you're smoking him. He's like, dude, what are you doing back there? If you feel so inclined to share the information, sure. My recommendation, wait till you get 5 and then share. Be like, man, I'm just throwing a shaky head. That's the big thing. That's the one thing I keep meaning to talk about. Again, there's so many guys that have won tournaments that'll tell you they want them on a Senko. And you'll be like, man, Senko, I was throwing a Senko all day. But they're not telling you how they threw the Senko. So if you're throwing a Senko, you can wacky rig it. You can throw it on a drop shot. You can Texas rig it. I mean, guys, there's so many ways. He could actually be throwing a Senko on the back of a Ned rig and then just call that a Senko. But it's really on the back of a Ned rig. And he did catch him on a Senko all day. He's just leaving out the Ned rig part. He could, if he's Texas rigging it, he could be using a 1/16. He could be using a 1/8. He could be using a 3/8. He could be using a 3/16. He could be going with he could be fishing his Senko on a bait caster, flipping it in the holes in the grass. Whereas you're out here with the wacky rig, just letting it gently fall in there. And he's like careening that jump, boom, coming down, making that big commotion. He's getting bit. And here you are letting it flutter. Like, there's so many differences in a bait. So if you hear a guy, man, I was flipping a jig all day. Okay, that's great. What trailer was he using? What color? Did he have a living rubber skirt? Did he have a regular skirt? Did he have a black and blue jig, but he had a little bit like my Omega Custom Tackle Righteous Finesse jig has a nice little chartreuse in the bottom, but it is a black and blue jig. If I hold it up, you're going to think it's black and blue. If I flip it over, you're going to see that it has a nice flash at the bottom of the chartreuse. And you're like, I caught him in a black and blue jig. Little brown jig, LBJ. But what else was going on? See what I'm saying? You're not going to get that information. They did their homework. They did something different versus everybody else in the water that's been throwing whatever the same thing they've been throwing the whole time. They did something different. They got the bites. You didn't get the bites. This happened to me so many times in tournament. I'll throw a fluke where someone else is throwing a fluke, but I tweak mine a little bit. They don't. I'm getting the bites. They're not. They tweak theirs. They're getting the bites. I'm not. I'm flipping. They're getting bites. I'm not. I'm getting bites. They're not. There's so much to it, but I'm telling you guys, you got to pay attention to what the rods are that you see, and then you have to make little tweaks. If you're not getting bite, you're throwing the same thing. He's smoking them. You're not. You have to know line side. One time I got crushed throwing a jerkbait one day, and I love throwing a jerkbait. You guys know how much I love throwing a jerkbait. If you follow my channel at all, I love throwing a jerkbait. I got like 1 million jerkbait videos. I got my butt handed to me by this jerkbait, and then I find out that the line size is different. The rod and reel combination is different. I knew that from first, but I was like, I should be fine. Line was different. Bait was different. Size was different. Everything was different. I'm out here with this profile. That profile wasn't. It's so many differences, so many subtle little things that went into why I got my butt handed to me. Couldn't catch nothing. And again, I'm not competing. I'm just saying personally, I didn't catch any fish. This person did catch fish. We were throwing a very similar bait. I didn't catch anything. He caught everything. Okay, so you see what I'm saying? So, but there was something different there. There was definitely something different there. So I bought some stuff to kind of talk about. If you're watching, you can see. If you're listening, I will explain. A lot of people fish with different things. So if you're fishing a wacky rig, you guys always know about the nail weight. Put a nail weight in there, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of you guys buy those nail weights from the store, the companies that sell you, 10 nail weights, 8 ounce, all for $5. Guys, I went to Lowe's, and I got a pack of, I don't even know how many's in this thing. Like 100, 200 nails. I got a whole giant, you can hear it. I got a whole giant pack of nails. The weight on this is perfect. This is what I use in my wacky rig 100 out of 100 times. If I'm throwing a Nico rig, this is what I'm throwing. I put one of these nails in here. Now I find out this year I can actually get different color nails. So if I'm trying to maintain that profile that's more natural, I've got brown and green kind of nails that I can make sure that my green pumpkin Senko still looks green over a little bit of brown, as opposed to what I was throwing, like a bright silver or gold, which did give a little bit of flash, but I think it definitely also could turn the fish off sometimes. So I have natural ones. I have bright flash silver, gold nails, black nails. If I'm throwing a black Senko and I just want it all to match, I'm throwing a black Senko. I got black nail. Like literally little things that you can do versus just getting the generic one. And this thing cost me like $3. And I will never need another one of these for the rest of my fishing career. I will never run out of these. That's way too many. Plus I got 3-4 packs of them, so I will never run out of those. But that's saving money tips right there. Saving money tips right there. Another tip that I got, again, about just being different. That's different right there for me. I do have weights as well. Those are my own. You guys can get those anywhere. I don't have a tip for those per se. I buy these things to keep my, if I'm holding up, these are Goodies hairbands. I buy these to keep my drop shot leaders on my rod connected, because one of the worst things as a co-angler is when you go to get up, and because the boat's been rocking all around, you realize that your drop shot leader has now wrapped around 4 of your other poles, and then you go to pick them up, and then the drop shot weight falls off because it's tangled up and everything. Then you got to grab the weight, put the weight back on, untie everything. It's a disaster. So what I do is I buy these Goodies hairbands. I put them on the bottom of my rod, and I put the drop shot leader inside the hairband. I clamp it over pretty tight or twist it over pretty tight. And that way, whenever I stop or whenever I get up, I'm good. So anything that I put on there that has like one of those loose kind of leaders, Carolina rig, stuff like that, I will put one of these Goodies hairbands. I keep it on my spinning rods primarily, but also put on my bait caster too. I keep this on there, and it keeps my stuff connected right to it, so I don't have to worry about losing it. Now, another thing that I bring as a co-angler, as I'm just sharing tips. Hopefully, I kind of bunted tips right here in the middle, hoping people are still catching in the middle part so you don't miss out on information. But this is something I bought, and I mentioned in the beginning I would share a story about this. Actually, I didn't mention this one. I filmed this. This is my second time filming this, guys. And the first one I got shut down somehow. It was weird. So I'm back again with this. But this actually saved my butt in the Lake Murray BFL Regional. I didn't talk about it. I didn't say anything about it, whatever the case may be. I had a boater that I was with in the regional. One of the years I fished, I can't remember. That their boat, I had 2 or 3 fish at that time. They had 2 or 3 fish at that time. We were probably about 10, 15 minutes away from the ramp. We had plenty of time left, but their boat batteries died, and they tried to re-kick them off. Nothing was working. It was not starting. We were pretty much done in the water. And if I don't get back in, I don't get to the scales, I don't get a check, the Lake Murray would have been a complete utter disaster. I just so happened to grab this is what I'm holding up here to the camera, guys, is a portable charger. So I actually bring a portable charger in my tournament bag. I bring this portable charger, and I think I did a video talking about this, but I bring this. I didn't expect it to actually come in handy and actually help me, but I did bring this charger, kick-started the boater's boat, got back in. The boater didn't feel comfortable fishing without the motor running. So when we were trying to fish for schooling fish, we had to leave the motor running. Didn't work. We tried, and I'm glad that he tried. And after a while, he just didn't want to fish anymore. So we ended up going back in on the regional tournament like an hour and a half early. so he could get to work on his boat. But we did go out, and I did catch, I think, 2 fish, and those 2 fish were pivotal for me getting on to day 2 and getting a check out of that deal. Pivotal to get back in. This literally saved me getting me back in, and honestly ended up making me money because I ended up cashing a check in that tournament thanks to bringing a portable charger. It jump started his boat fine, first try, and it came and it was going, and we were good to go. So little tips, guys. These are little things that you can bring that can make your day go from an absolute nightmare to way more pleasant of experience. And again, also too, this still falls in the same category about being different. Not everybody's bringing this stuff, guys. Not everybody's doing this. I'm sharing information, but just find a way to make it work for your system. That's what my deal is. If just find a way to make it work for your system. Now, what I'm going to do with you guys now is I'm going to share probably my top 2 producing baits of all last year. I'm going to give you, these aren't specific colors that work that great for me, but these are specific baits that work that good for me. So in particular, first bait, Coangler tips here, angler tips here. And these tips apply to anyone. If you're a boater, bring a portable charging box, right? You should have one. Obviously, y'all got all kinds of space or tackle as boaters to put everything everywhere. And your rods are in these nice little rod tubes, so typically you don't have to worry about your stuff getting all knocked around. But that hair thing is still good. And another company makes like a clamp thing for it all. They got all that. But again, you buy that clamp thing that costs you $4 or $5 to get one, or you buy a pack of 20, 30 count hair things that cost $2 at the Dollar General. And $2 solves the same problem versus having to get all these gadgets and whatever those people got. So I wanted to talk to you guys about the 2 baits that probably my top producing baits for me. One in particular is a Senko, in particular the Berkeley General. This Senko, majority of my derbies every year, the Senko comes into play. Colors are going to vary. You want to vary those based on your bodies of water, what you typically see, dirty, clear, blah, blah, blah. Go through all that. But 100%, and I know you're like, oh my God, dude, you showed us a Senko. I know, but don't overlook it. A lot of you guys, we think too much about tournaments. We think way too much. We put too much thought into this and this and this and this. Now, when I say, just like I told you before, I said I fished a Senko and Senko won me a lot of money. I said that. I didn't tell you how I fished it, how I rigged it. So get creative when you get to these Senko. There's a ton of different ways. I know it's a Senko. You can go John Cox OG and just put a hook in the middle and throw that sucker out. David Dudley, just put a hook in the middle and throw it out. David Dudley and John Cox did not get to the level they're at fishing by saying, oh, it's just a Senko, it's whatever. Watch their videos. You ain't even got to listen to me on this tip. Watch John Cox and watch David Dudley. Then come back and talk to me about how exactly. So there's that. And the other one is a Zoom finesse worm. These 2 have to be in my tackle bag every tournament I go to. I don't care what body of water. Only thing I do is I change the color. So I like June bugs. I like green pumpkins. I like watermelon, not so much, but I do like it. Black and blue, black. There's so many different colors that you can use. Amber, green pumpkin. You just got to find the color for that day and then just keep it in your hand. Like, switch it up every once in a while, but keep it in your hand. If you got a boater who's just throwing a Senko, that's where these tips come into play about be different. So I already mentioned one. He's throwing a Senko. He's throwing it Texas rig with 16th ounce weight. I'm going to throw mine wacky with a nail weight, and I'm going to dye the tail. Be different. I'm different now, right? He's throwing where his is. I added a little bit of weight so I can kind of keep up speed-wise. I don't want to be sitting back here all day just waiting for mine to hit the bottom. I add a little bit of a weight so I can get down there. If you see that he's only throwing generals because he opens up the pack and shows you, I personally have another brand of Senkos that I'm not showing you guys on this video, and I probably never will show you guys. I very rarely fish Berkeley Generals. I fish a different brand of Senko. One place I will only fish Berkeley Generals. A lot of times I really only fish Berkeley Generals. Every other place I fish this other brand because I know people are fishing Berkeley Generals and they all love Berkeley Generals. And I am different, so I will throw another brand. That's a simple hack right there. Just throw a different brand of Senko. Like, oh, I'm throwing a Senko. Don't throw a Senko. He's throwing a Senko. Nobody really wants to throw Senko, but most people do love throwing a Senko. I love throwing a Senko. That's different, okay? That makes sense. That's different. A different brand. I'll remember these little things. Remember I said Jackhammer, Thunder Cricket, Rapture from Makeup and Tackle, Picasso Lures. Omega Custom Tackle spinnerbait, War Eagle spinnerbait, Berkeley spinnerbait, like still be different, but you can be different, but you can still throw the same thing, but you can make yours different than what they're throwing. Zoom finesse worm, there's every color, but there's so many ways to fish this. I'll fish this on a drop shot, shaky head, wacky rig, Nico rig, Tokyo. I mean, it don't matter. You can literally throw this worm on anything. And if I don't throw the Zoom finesse worm, my other favorite is the Zoom trick worm. So Zoom finesse or Zoom trick is always in my bag. If you look in my tackle bag, you're going to see these 3 baits. Every tournament I go to, you're going to see these 3 baits because they have caught me a fish at every body of one I've ever gone to. One of these 3 will catch a fish, 100%. So if you're a coangler and you're just starting out and you want to bring 3, bring a Zoom finesse worm, a Zoom trick worm, and a Senko. And I'm working on a whole deal here where I'm going to go to you exactly which ones you should bring where you go. Stay tuned for that. Keep sticking with me. I'm working on a whole series about this whole thing, different from the Coangler Chronicles podcast. I'm actually working on like a seminar where I'm actually going to be presenting the information and going line by line, detail by detail in there to help you out with that. So those are my tips for baits that I want to share with you guys. I hope that information helps you there as well with a couple of my little hacks and things like that. But like I said, you have to be different. So this is one of the baits that I picked up from a tackle shop. And again, if you're listening, this what I'm holding up is a Pose crankbait. You know people are going to be throwing certain stuff, guys. You can look on the boat and see what they're going to be throwing. You've got to then figure out balsa versus the plastics. Little things like that can come into play. Think about the sound, what the fish is hearing, what the fish are looking for. And honestly, what the biggest thing I can give you is what the boater's doing. If they're not working, you're not a team per se, but you're technically working as a team. So I've had a lot of boaters be like, "Man, I'm gonna throw top water." They throw top water. I'm gonna come subsurface. I very rarely throw top water when someone else throws top water. I don't do that. If they're throwing top water, they have to get on a phenomenal top water bite for me to pick up a top water. I will not. A lot of people like to start with top water. I always start with top water. But if I pick up my first bait and I see the boaters throwing a spinner bait, I might start off with a buzz bait. If I know he's going subsurface, I might just come up on top. If he starts off with a buzz bait, I'm probably going to start with a spinner bait or a chatter bait. Or I'm probably going crankbait. If he's way up here and coming over top of him, I might just present something nice and easy to him on the bottom and see if I can pick off something. Look at this. I'm telling you guys how much I love Senkos. I have one in my pocket just sitting here for whenever I might need to fish it. But look at this. I would say I caught him on a Senko, but clearly I ripped this in half and I threw it on a Ned rig. But I would say I caught him on a Senko all day. I'll never say a Ned rig. I'll say I caught him on a Senko. But so literally, like if you're being different, again, I always try to find something different. I had one boater that started his day off. He was throwing a crankbait. I started throwing a shaky head. He threw a crankbait pretty much all day. I threw a shaky head and drop shot all day. We both top 10. So like, and you're like, oh, he's throwing a crankbait. He's going so fast. You're trying to drag the shaky head and dead stick and all that. Yeah, you can. Don't let these people get in your head about what you can and cannot do when you're on the water, man. You just got to be creative and you got to think outside the box when you're in these tournaments. You have to think outside the box in these tournaments. If you got a guy just burning it and you feel like you can't keep up with him, he's just going, trolling motors going. At some point, you might just want to take a shaky hit or a drop shot, pitch it up as far close to the front as you can that's acceptable by your boater, pitch it up there, let it sit, and then just hold the rod in your hand. He's burning down the bank, just pick it up, drop it back down. Pick it up, drop it back down. Shake, 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 drop it back down. Pick it up, drop it back down. Shake, 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 drop it back down. Pick it up, drop back down. You're literally still doing one cast, and he's probably made 11 with his crankbait. You're still on the same one cast. You start to feel it get closer to the boat, hopping a little bit at the boat, hop, 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 make that shaky, shake, 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 shake. No bite, rinse and repeat, man. Sometimes you just gotta just be like, look, this is what I'm gonna do. And if that didn't work, maybe change your color. Maybe you don't got the right color on. Switch your color, do the same thing again. If that doesn't work, tie a drop shot. Texas rig it, because if he's throwing a crankbait, there might be some wood stumps down there. Texas rig it, you drop shot, throw it again. Same thing. This time, notice how the first time I picked up like this time pick up like this. And let it sink back down. And then just sit there. Pick up like this, let it sink back down. You're counting like 10, 20 seconds in between, man. Sit back down. You got to think you have 8 hours. You're just trying to get 5 bites. So everything is not always rush. You just need 5 bites. Typically in a Coangler as a tournament, if you can get 3 to 5 fish, you're pretty much going to get a check. You need 5 to win most of the time. But if you can get 3 to 5, you're more than likely going to get a check. You're going to put yourself a little bit above mid-pack, somewhere in the 30s or 40s, and you're going to get a check. If you can get 3 fish typically in these tournaments, 3 to 5, if you get 5, you got a chance at winning. Now, I said all that to say why I'm harping on the issue about be different, but don't like cower down to just throwing 8-pound test and a shaky head all day. Don't do that, man. The one tournament that I did win, I said it a million times, I was throwing a half-ounce spinnerbait all day for the majority of the day. I switched to a Senko to get a keeper when I needed a fish, but I was still, because it had to be 14 inches, but I was throwing a half-ounce spinnerbait all day. That's when I won the tournament. I was not throwing a shaky head. I wasn't dropping. I wasn't doing, but I also top 10 doing a shaky head and a drop shot. You have to be able to adapt. And when I say like cower down, it's not a bad thing. It's just that you don't always have to be in that position, operating under the mindset of I'm only going to catch 3 small fish today because this guy's a hammer and I'm not going to get it done. No, you still go for it, man. Just be different, okay? Just come up with something else. You guys are going to be singing this like when we get done. Be different. Like you're going to be different. Gotta be different. You gotta throw something different than your boater's throwing. You gotta be different. Right, so I'm gonna get it in your head somehow. You have to, but you don't have to immediately resort to 100% ultra finesse techniques. You can, and if the situation calls, you better do it. Throw everything I'm saying out the window. I say this in all my videos. Throw it all out the window. And it might seem counterintuitive, but throw it away. You have to fish that moment. So if I say throw a chatterbait and make it different than your boater's chatterbait, and you throw a different chatterbait, but you're still not getting bit, you got to find your drop shot, man. You got to find your Carolina rig lizard. You have to find, if you want to win, if you want to cash a check today, you're going to have to adapt at that moment. And throw away the parts that I'm saying that aren't helping you at that time. Pick up the parts that will help you at that time, because I'm giving you something that will help you. Just pick that up, throw the other thing away, if that makes sense. So hopefully that information helps for today's video about being different. Like I said, it's the same thing. It's still in a mindset. It's still an idea. It's still a concept that you need to grasp when you're out there on the water. But sometimes you just need to try to hit a home run. If you don't hit the home run, then you want to try to get on. Then try to hit a triple. If you can't get the triple, then go for the double. If you can't get the double, then you just want to get on base. Just don't strike out. I guess that's what I'm getting. Here we go, guys. I went away from a basketball analogy. I went to a baseball analogy. Oh, my goodness. I've only played baseball like 4 times. But I went away from a basketball analogy. I cannot believe I worked my way into doing this. So as a co-angler, you're trying to get on base, man. You're trying to get on base. Third base, 3 fish. You probably going to get a check if you can get to 3. Unless the fishery is just that insane, then it still won't work. You got to go for 5. 5 is the home run. There is nothing for 4 in this scenario because I don't have a 4 example. But maybe you get the 3rd and then get your buddy on the 1st. But that doesn't quite work in this scenario. So as a co-angler, you're trying to get on base, man. If you get the 1st, you still trying to get the 2nd. The game ain't over. You're trying to get the 2nd. If you figured out what to get you on 1st, figure out how to get on 2nd. Adapt, use these different strategies, different things to get on 2nd. Get on 3rd. Then try to bring it home. In my brain, I've always said to myself, if I can get 3, I can get 5. I don't say if I can get 4, I can get 5. If I figure out how to get 3, I can get 5. If I got enough time and I don't run out of the bait, I can get to 5. If I get 3, I can get 5. If I got 3, I figured out something that'll get me to 3 fish. I can get 5. As long as he don't go completely away from this area that we're in, and the next area that we go to is a completely different fishing where I got to re-figure it out again, then I'm not going to get 5. I'm still going to try to get 5, but it's going to be a little bit hard in my brain to kind of grasp that. But if we get 3 and we're somewhere in a similar area, I'm getting 5. That's how it always works. If I can get to 3, I know I can try to get to 5. So I hope a couple of tips here, things to share. I hope it helps. I hope you guys use information. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to an episode of the Coangler Chronicles podcast. It's been awesome. I am your host, Ty. Sounds like I'm kind of wrapping this up pretty quickly because I am. But I need to get it wrapped up, and I certainly thank you for tuning in. Next episode will be soon. On the next ones, I probably will have guests on those, and then I'll be back to doing the ones where I do it myself. Be sure to check out the shirt, Fish, Ozarks Outfitters. Awesome. Also, check out my other guys that I rock with. I list all that. And be sure to get in the description box and check that out. Next episode, I will be talking about, I'll kind of give you a little bit of teaser. I am going to be talking about, we're going to be going over how you can use past tournament results and past tournament information, in particular pairings, in particular how people fall in the realm, how their derbies are going, how their derbies have been, to help yourself with upcoming events. So we're going to go back into time with some different information, how you can gather information, where you can gather information from to help yourself be successful as a coangler in these tournaments. We're going to go over into all that kind of stuff in the next episode, I believe. I won't say very next episode, but that's what I'm going to be working on for the next episode. In the meantime, I am filming like a seminar, like I said, where I'm going to be breaking down some information, very helpful information for everybody that you guys can all take part in. So thank you for tuning in. This is an episode of the Coangler Chronicles podcast. Thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace. I'm out.